Today I will be talking about how to make this lovely journal out of a manila folder and some cardstock. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we begin making our journal, the first order of business will be to download the instructions for making the journal. You'll find those in the PDF section of this class. And there's also another listing that is a materials list for making this particular journal, and it will list all of the ingredients and all of the cutting materials and miscellaneous. Whatever you need to make that journal will be listed on this sheet. So again, don't forget, download these instructions and we'll be ready to start in just a minute. This journal is assembled using two basic materials. The first is a 9x12 clasp envelope. You can find these anywhere. And we are going to take that envelope and we're going to turn this into a journal. That will form our cover. The signatures will be made using some cardstock, basic cardstock that you can find anywhere. Those are the two main ingredients for this journal. Before we begin to assemble our journal using our manila folder and our cardstock, I just want to take a moment to go through some of the supplies with you. First order of business is obviously to protect your surface while you're cutting and punching holes. So if you have a cutting mat, I would strongly suggest using it. If not, put down a newsprint pad or something to protect your table and your surface. Next, we just need a ruler and a pencil, and we're going to need a bone folder so that we can get a nice crisp fold in our signatures. If you don't have a bone folder, that's okay. I'll show you how to use the side of a scissor, and you will need a pair of scissors. You're also going to need something called a paper awl. Now, this is a heavy-duty paper awl. What makes this important in the journal making is the point of this is very sharp, and it will give you a nice tiny point through which you can thread a needle and thread, which leads me to the next supply. The next supply is a binder's needle. If you do not have a paper awl or a binder's needle, check your sewing box. Chances are you've got something that will work almost just as well. The reason we're using a binder's needle is it's a blunted point, okay? And it has an eye, and I don't know how well you can see this, but we're going to try. The eye of this needle is relatively large enough to comfortably pull this thick, heavy thread through without much difficulty. So again, if you don't have the binder's needle and you don't have a paper awl, please go through your materials in your sewing kit. Chances are you may have something. You may also want to use a straight edge, an X-Acto blade. We're also going to need 2 binder's clips, just regular from the stationery store. If you don't have binder's clips, you may use clothespins. These are kind of cute. My daughter gave me these. I love them. So you can use, but you want to be able to keep your journal in position while you're punching your holes. You'll also need waxed linen cord. Some of this I purchased on Etsy, some of it I got in a local craft store. What makes this thread so special is the fact that it's very sturdy. I can tug on this with everything I have and it will not break. Actually, I feel as though it'll slice my fingers. It's so thick and so sturdy. And this will give you a nice strong journal. If you do not have waxed linen thread, you may use dental floss. It will work just as well. And this is a journal. It's just a little pocket pamphlet journal, again with hidden things, hidden flaps, extra flaps, that I made using some cardstock and some waxed linen thread. So if you've got cardstock, waxed linen thread, and some blunt needles, you can do just about anything in the journal world and expound on that. And last but not least, as far as supplies are concerned, you may want some threads or ribbons so that you can secure your journal. I've used some silk sari ribbon, but it certainly doesn't have to be sari ribbon. You can use fibers. And maybe some beads or embellishments. So when your journal is complete, I like nice heavy beads with nice big eyes in them. You can use these to thread on your tail and complete your journal. Those are all of the supplies. Again, make sure you download all of the PDF instructions. The materials list is there for you. And let's get started. Let's make a journal for all of our secrets. I have a 9 by 12 envelope in front of me with the clasp up. What I'm going to do is fold the envelope so that the bottom edge of the envelope is in line with the fold. So when it's closed, that's what it's going to look like. I'm going to take my bone folder, and with the bone folder, crease my envelope. Make sure it's nice and taut and that you get a nice sharp crease. That's our first step. This is going to be the cover of our book. The next step is to take a piece of plain white cardstock, fold it in half. Again, we want to make sure our edges meet, and with the bone folder, make another crease. If you don't have a bone folder, again, you may use a scissor to go along that line so that you'll get a nice sharp crease. We're going to take the sheet that we just folded and the envelope that we folded with the clasp to the right if you're right-handed, to the left if you're left-handed, whatever's more comfortable for you. We're going to take the white sheet of paper and slip it inside this envelope. And we're going to make sure that the crease inside of the cardstock matches the crease here so that it will fold over nicely. Once you're certain that the creases have all matched up and your cardstock is securely in place, fold your journal over again, take your bone folder or the side of a scissor, and again, you want to make another nice crease. And now we're going to get adhesive and we're going to tape down the cardstock inside the envelope. Take your envelope. You want to make sure that you tape down, hopefully you can get a good look here, this side of the edge to the back, which is actually the front of your journal. So you're not taping it to this inside piece. You're going to tape the edge of this to this particular piece. I'm going to do that using a double-sided adhesive. But you can also, by all means, use a glue stick or rubber cement or something, just as long as you make sure that it's down securely. I'm going to take a minute to do that and we'll be back. Take a sheet of cardstock, fold it in half so the edges meet, make a nice little crease right down the center, and using either your bone folder or the side of a scissor, flatten this edge and make a nice sharp crease. You need to do this for the remainder of your pieces of cardstock. So when all is said and done, you will have a signature that will have 6 pieces of cardstock folded one inside the other. Find the center of your journal. You're going to make sure your signature is in place. You're going to center it inside of this crease as best you can. So you have your creases lining up and the signature will be placed equidistant from the sides of your envelope. You're going to try to center the signature within the confines of this cover. You're going to take a binder clip and you're going to clip either side of this journal. And the next step will be placing the holes for our pamphlet stitch. The center of your journal, since the overall width is 9 inches, the center will be at 4.5. See, I can do math. No biggie. And with the pencil, you're just going to mark the center of your journal with a very small dot, just big enough for you to see it. Now you're going to make more holes for your pamphlet stitch. Taking a ruler and your pencil, you're going to mark in 1.5 inches from the very edge of your envelope. So there's a hole at 1.5, and we're going to measure down, and we're going to mark at another 1.5. You will have 3 holes. Making sure that your binder clips are secure, that your signatures are where you want them, you're going to take your awl with the sharp point. Well, it's kind of sharp but kind of blunt. You're going to take that, and where you've made your marks, you're going to kind of punch down and through, not only, and I like to wiggle my book a little bit too, because I want to make sure that this has gone through all of the signatures and the back of this cover. And you're going to proceed to do that with all 3 holes. So you're going to have 3 holes that are precisely through the signature and the cover. This is also why I recommended that you limit your cardstock and not put too many pieces of cardstock in the center, because it does make it incrementally more difficult to get these holes. And make sure that your punch goes through all the way. You use an ice pick, or if you're using, see how these holes have gone through? They're right through. So now we're ready to begin doing the pamphlet stitch. Before we do that, make sure these binder clips stay in place. You want to make sure that these holes are lined up in the center. The next step is to thread your needle with the waxed linen thread or your dental floss. And the way that we're going to measure how much floss we're going to need or thread we're going to need for a stitch is to just kind of eyeball things. It's like a scientific thing, I guess, with me. But I like to measure a little better than 3 times the length of this book. So when all is said and finished, you'll have a piece of thread approximately, I'll clip that, you'll have a piece of thread of waxed linen cord or dental floss that's approximately 27 to 30 inches. You don't want it any more than that because it becomes unwieldy. You're going to take this thread and you're going to thread your needle. Our needle is threaded, and I did not tie a knot on the end of it. You don't want to tie a knot. You want to leave a nice lead on it. You're going to make sure your binder clips are still in place. You're going to take your needle and thread, insert it through the back, up through the middle, and you want to leave on the back, you want to leave a nice little tail, because you'll add embellishments and things to that. So turn it over, you've got your thread up through the center, go to the hole on the left, take your needle, pull it through the back, go to the other hole in the back, thread your needle through that hole and through the signatures. And it put up a little bit of a fight, but we got it. Okay. And now you kind of want to pull this taut a little bit. If you see it's pulling this thread, you want to tug on it just a little bit and make sure that it's pretty good. And then again, through the center hole, out the back. Flip your journal over. Clip your thread and tie a knot. Just simple overhand knot. Do it twice. This is where I said leave the tails, because this will give me an opportunity to add some embellishments later on, some beads. You can turn your journal over, remove the clips, and now we're ready to start doing our backgrounds. We have a journal. Congratulations, you now have a beautiful little journal that's ready to house your secrets. So let's move on to the next lesson, where we are going to learn how to add color to the pages. That's where all the fun is going to be, adding some color. I'll show you how to do some backgrounds with paint, and we're going to play with gesso and paint and watercolors. And when you're finished, hopefully you will be ready to start incorporating your secrets into your special journal. Thank you for watching. I hope you had some fun. I hope you've got a great little journal for your secrets. I will see you in the next lesson. Namaste.